Hi, my name is REYNA MARDER GENTIN, and I'm here with my new book, Jessica Harmon Has Stepped Away, and I'm super excited to be here on Joy on Paper Live.
Hi, this is PatZi with a Z. Welcome to Joy on Paper Live, a program for writers and those who dream of writing, and for everyone who wants to know the story behind the book. And I am so happy to have today Reyna Marder Gentin. And we're going to be talking not just about this book, I'm also going to sneak a few questions in about her two previous books because I love legal books. And here we go.
Thank you.
Hi, Reyna. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Okay. Jessica Harmon Has Stepped Away is a nice big title. And I just love the book, the cover. It's really cool. It's an eye popping cover, which is important. It's so important to have a cover that people will remember. And that's why I always like to put the cover up when I'm talking to people. And because I move myself off a little bit because it's important that people remember you and remember your book. And so I thought that what I'd want you to do, of course, we never know how much to say about a book, but it's difficult. But I just want to tell people that, of course, you are a really great writer. You've written two previous legal books, which
Mhm.
I love legal books. I've been involved with a lot of lawyers, and I love them. Well, or I hate them. It depends. But I do love legal books. Now, this is a different type of book, and it covers the human condition, and also a little bit of it occurred during the pandemic. Which it's funny. This is one of the first books that has anything about the pandemic, and it doesn't freak me out. For
I'm
a
glad.
while, I was getting these pandemic books, and I couldn't handle it. Did you get the idea during the pandemic for this book? Because it is different from your legal work, and I know you're a defense lawyer. You have been involved in the law.
Yeah, I did start writing this about 2021, so the kind of the height of the pandemic was maybe beginning to pass. But I did feel like if you're writing contemporary fiction about these years, I don't know how you ignore the fact that's what we went through. And I find that I didn't want to make it a downer, as you said, and I did feel like the country had and the world had come out of it and it was hopefully going to be okay. But to ignore something like that had gone on for such a long time and had been so devastating, it just seemed unrealistic to me. When I read a book and there's no mention, if I know that it's in 2020, 2021, 2022, and there's no mention of what went on, I find it strange.
You're right, because and in this case, it's a complicated plot line. I will let you tell people what it's about and how much you want to give away, because there are a lot of, although it's not a mystery or anything, there's mystery involved, there's secrets involved, and whenever there are secrets involved, you don't want to give those secrets away. So tell us what you want to tell people.
Sure. It's a book about a young woman writer. She's 30 years old, and when we meet her at the beginning of the novel, she's a mess. Her love life is in tatters because she is unable to commit to anybody, and she is not actually writing, although she had written quite a bit during her college years and showed a lot of promise. She has found herself now in an editing job, a kind of a very dead end editing job. And what you learn pretty early on in the book is that she blames a lot of this failure to launch on her mother and on her relationship with her mother. Her mother is a world renowned poet and academic who has done spectacularly well in the writing field and who has just scads of followers both amongst readers and amongst her students. And yet she's had a very kind of cold and distant relationship with Jessica. That's the 30-year-old. And near the beginning of the book, Cynthia, that's the mom, wins a Lifetime Achievement Award. And she invites Jessica to go on the book tour that is supposed to happen. And Jessica's not sure what to do. She views it as maybe a last ditch effort to repair her relationship with her mother, or at least to find out what the cause of this rift has been. So it follows them on the tour, and I won't give away what happens on the tour, but that's a mechanism for the story.
One of the things is, of course, this mother-daughter relationship has been, it never, it doesn't matter. It never changed. We love to read these stories. All of us have gone through various stages of mother-daughter relationships. some good, some bad, and if ours aren't bad, we've seen our friends to have like disaster mothers. So it's always fascinating to read dynamics about it. And you've really dug into the psychology of the characters. So tell us about Cynthia. She is, and
She's
one thing I love is that she is a poet and a world famous poet. Now, this doesn't happen very often. So I must say, I'm always on the side of the poet. I'm so happy that somebody gets to be and make money being a poet. It's, yeah, go girl. I feel, that enthusiastic about a poet. So tell us about
yeah.
Cynthia and then, of course, about Jessica.
So she is a poet. In an earlier draft, I made it seem as though she actually was making money as a poet, but an early reader said to me, like, that's just unrealistic. So I had to end up giving her some inherited wealth so that she could do all the things she wanted to do and still be a poet. And she's a bit of a narcissist. That's really, I think, a lot where it stems from, but she's also had trauma. And I think what's interesting in their relationship is that Jessica, the daughter, she intuits that there's trauma there, right? That nobody turns out this way and has this kind of relationship with her daughter unless there's a story behind it. And she doesn't know the story, and she has demanded the story many times from her mother growing up, and Cynthia just won't give it over. And again, I don't want to give anything away, but as the trip goes on and as the novel goes on, some of those cracks begin to form, and we begin to see what happened to Cynthia in her past and how it might explain some of the ways that she is with her own daughter. And I hope it leads readers to a more nuanced understanding of Cynthia. I think when you first get into her personality, you say, wow, this woman is a piece of work, and it's hard to really empathize with her or to see where she's coming from. And then I hope as things go on, that becomes different. I hope people can see that there are many sides to everybody in the book.
Of course, Cynthia is a professor at Yale, a poetry professor. They still have them. Do they at Yale?
She's actually a poetry professor at Hunter College.
Oh, at Hunter, yeah. You went to Yale.
I did go to Yale, and Yale plays a very prominent part in the book. There is a whole Yale connection. And I'm sure, certainly when I was there, you could study poetry at Yale. So I hope that is still the case. I think a lot of things have changed over the years at all of our institutes of higher learning, but I hope that you can still study poetry.
Because we actually have so few poets who get noticed at all. It is really, I am one of the few programs in both my radio program. When I started my radio program, one of the first things that happened is I wanted to have poets on. And so I invited poets to be on. They were shocked. Why are you asking us to come on? I said, I like it. I like poetry. And actually, in a way, a clever thing for me, because I told publicists I do poetry, and they oh, nobody does poetry. But they always have a few in the background. And so I start getting free poetry books. Well, I'm happy. But I even had a poet reading in Latin on the radio. And he was like, nobody ever asked me to read in Latin in person. And then and I just had on Joy on Paper Live, now that I have the YouTube station, I also have had quite a few poets. And now it's fun because I can put their poetry actually on the screen so people can see it. And when you thought of it, did you think right away of making her a poet? Had you thought of any other possibility?
I did think of making her a poet. My husband studied poetry. That was his major in college, and he has always loved poetry. And during the pandemic, when we were all stuck at home, he taught a poetry class online. He's not an academic, but everybody was home and people didn't have things to do. And he taught one on Zoom, which I joined in on. And I've never been a poetry reader. I find it difficult, but he's very enthusiastic about it. So I figured that could be a little bit of a tribute to him also to get the poetry in there. So
yeah, definitely a tribute to him. Now, of course, as we said, there are a lot of secrets and lies that come out in the book, and that's part of the fun of reading it, of discovering all of this. And it was a departure from your legal books. Did you find it more difficult to deal with this subject as opposed to the legal ones?
Yeah, I found it difficult. I found it difficult to write for a number of reasons. first two books I wrote, as you say, were very legal based, and I had been practicing law for many years. So I found those easier to write just because I understood the structure. I knew where a case had to go. I knew how the research would go. I understood how the courtroom appearances would happen. So that kind of gave them a framework that was much easier for me to latch onto when I was just learning the craft of how to write a novel. So definitely I found this difficult. I found it also difficult because luckily I had a very good relationship with my mother. And this relationship is so strained in the book and it's so painful. And I found myself almost saying, well, how would my mother react to this? And then doing the opposite. And not that my mother was perfect. And certainly she had her own strengths and weaknesses, which I think we all understand better as we grow up. And I certainly can feel my own children understanding my strengths and weaknesses better as they grow up. But it did require more imagination because I didn't have that kind of terrible pain to draw on.
My mother was great, but I did have a girlfriend who had a mother not unlike Cynthia, not so I enjoyed the whole concept. I thought it was great. Now, and of course I liked also you gave Jessica a nice job in publishing. And that I suppose you've drawn upon from your experience now as a really busy author.
A little bit, a little bit. It's again like I tried to take what I knew and make it either more interesting or more of itself. The press that she's at it's like a hybrid press, and I did have my first book out with a hybrid press, but it's a much more exaggerated, the quality being poor. Like the things she's working on, it's difficult. Like she's trying to make them presentable, these manuscripts, and she's finding it difficult because a lot of them are just incomprehensible. And I was with a very good, high quality hybrid press where that would never be the case. But I think everybody uses their experiences to try to doctor things up a little bit. And
I thought you did a good job on that. I like books that have stuff about publishers and editors, and I just the back part of the book world.
mm,
And you did it well. You did it very well. Now, of course, you've had experience with editors for your own books. Did you have more editing comments on this book than on the legal books?
no, I wouldn't say so. Actually, in this book and my first book, I used the same developmental editor to help me. And I think she actually found the first book made more sense to her, maybe because I had the structure involved and it was something I knew so well. This book, I think she found more difficult to edit because in some ways she knew, as you say, she knew more than I did because it was her world. And she's actually the one I was mentioning before who said that thing about the poet. The poet cannot be rich just based on her own work. And I hadn't really thought about that so much. To me, I see all sorts of writers making all sorts of money, and I thought, why can't a poet do that?
Oh,
But
no, no, they're not.
yeah,
When I said that she was rich, I knew, of course, that she had money. You have to have
right,
some money to, because when you talk about starving writers, it's usually the starving poets because
right.
they're not making any money. It's funny, if you go back in history, a lot of those guys didn't make any money either. They died in poverty. So it's never been, it's poetry is something you have to love.
For sure. But she was able to point out things like that to me that although I've been in this world a little bit, it's still recent to me and I don't always get things right. And she was able to help me with those aspects in this book, as you say, in some ways more than the legal ones.
But I do like the idea of an acclaimed poet, someone arriving at a hotel and they say, ah, she's a poet. Oh, welcome. Welcome to the Ritz Hotel. She's a poet. Yeah. I got a kick out of that kind of thing. I have a soft spot for poets. And what you've done here, the psychology, it's funny, I'm going to be talking to an author very soon, and she deals with a lot of psychopaths. I've been interested in the psychology of people and the things that they can get up to. And Cynthia is a nice study.
Yeah. So someone said to me yesterday when an early reader said she's an original. Okay, I guess that's good. Yeah, as I said, she's had difficulties that her daughter doesn't really know about that might explain some of the way she acts, but not all of it. Some of it is just the way she is, and she's a tough cookie.
I liked everything about it. And what I also found was you have also these other characters, whether around the family, around certainly the ones who take care of Cynthia, care about Cynthia, because there are people who care about her. It's not just so it's just you've developed these characters very well too.
Thanks. Yeah, I think the ancillary characters are always so interesting to write. There's one thing to write the love interest, and I enjoyed writing Raj. I like him. But some of the smaller ones, the ones really also that you're right. So there are some that care for Cynthia, and then there's also ones that kind of sub in as maternal figures for Jessica, and I enjoyed writing them. Donna, she's the clerk in the hotel. Like, who develops a relationship with the clerk in the hotel? She needs people, and she needs people to care about her. And when Donna steps up, and her best friend's parents are very kind to her, and Vera, who's been also caring for Cynthia, but has cared for Jessica since she was a little girl. And it was fun to flesh out those characters and see how they could play a role in their lives, like not just in the book. Oh, she's the caretaker. You know what I mean? She really played a role in her life.
Yeah, I agree. It's those little characters. That's what makes it so rich. It's like why are the old movies from the 30s and 40s, why can we watch them over and over? Because they worked on the little characters. They always gave a few lines, whether it's the bellhop or whether it's a maid, they made them real. And that's why those movies, we can watch them over and over, because every time we'll find one more little line, we'll say, oh, I don't remember that. And that's exactly what happens here. I noticed that at the end of the book, you mentioned that people talk about writing being an isolating thing, but I don't find that's true. I think if you're doing it right, you're out there observing, you're out there talking, and you're out there just being part of the world so that you can find these characters.
That's true. I found that I had to create my community in a different way than when I was practicing law. Like when I was practicing law, there was an office, there were people there were colleagues, there was a courthouse, there were ways that you connected with people during the day that is just different when you're writing. Like when you're writing, you really have to make an effort. You have to take a class, or you have to join a writing group, or you have to go to everybody's launch event that you can find, and you have to be there and put yourself out there and really say, now I do this. Now I do this with you, and let me be part of it, because it's harder. It's harder than when you have a project that you're working on with people, I think. I don't know. For me, it was.
What are you working on now?
So I'm working on a project. It's a novel in stories. It's a group of short stories centered around a 21-year-old girl named Kiki, who's left her home in Rhode Island. She's fleeing a doomed love affair, and she comes to work in Queens at a diner, and she works the overnight shift in the diner. So the stories range over the people that come into the diner, the different people that work in the diner, the neighborhood. I'm really enjoying it. I love to write short stories. I find I can focus very well when it's something I don't have to write 300 pages.
One of the things writers have to do nowadays is they have to promote it. So are you big into that?
I'm trying. It's hard. I hired a publicist who's somebody I worked with on my first book, and she's great. She got me to you. And
she's one of the best. She's one of my favorites. When she sends me somebody, I always know the book is good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, she's lovely, and she's so easy to work with. And so I've done that. And then this time around, which I never did before, I know that Instagram is so important, and I'm terrible at that kind of thing. So I hired a young girl in college, and she does my Instagram for me, which I'm happy about. And then I'm going anywhere anybody will have me. I'm doing a bunch of launch events, and I hope to do book groups. I really like book groups. That's really my favorite thing to do. I like to go places where people have read the book. I don't like to give speeches. I far prefer to talk about the book with people. So we'll see.
You have to keep getting out there and talking to people about your book and get them excited about it. Your writing's excellent, of course, and you do learn your writing chops being a lawyer. But are you still practicing?
1 day a week, just as a volunteer. I work in a domestic violence clinic just to keep my hand in it and feel like I'm still a lawyer. It's at a law school near my house, and Yeah, that's great.
When I first started the program, one of my very first guests was Ricky Kleeman,
For
the
some reason, I know
legal
her name.
analyst for CBS, and
Okay.
her husband is Bill Bratton. And I really started reading legal thrillers because of her.
Wow.
I haven't read your legal thrillers, so I will get back, and that way I can have you back on the show pretty soon.
I would love that. I would love that.
Okay, that'll be nice. That'll be fun. So, again, I hope that you'll be back soon. And Reyna Marder Gentin, I'm so happy that you have been on the program, and you have a website which is the same thing, and people can
Yes.
go there and they can get Jessica Harmon Has Stepped Away, and the book cover is really delicious. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a joy to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye now. Bye.
My name is Reyna Marder Gentin, and I'm here with my new book, Jessica Harmon Has Stepped Away.
Just click that button.